There is a reason one person keeps crossing your mind no matter how hard you try to move on. It is not random, it is not weakness, and it is not just because you are lonely for a moment. Something deeper is still alive between you, even if the outside of this connection feels silent, mixed, or impossible to read. So before you scroll away, pause here and really listen, because this may explain what your heart has been trying to understand for a long time. Some people leave your daily life, but they do not leave your inner world. They return in the quiet, in the middle of work, in the second before sleep, in the strange calm after a long day. You try not to think about them, yet there they are again. Their voice, their smile, a memory, a feeling, a pull. And the more you try to make it disappear, the more you notice it was never fully gone. Stay with me, because this is where most people get it wrong. When a thought returns this often without force, it is usually not empty imagination. It is emotional truth asking to be seen. It is unfinished energy asking for meaning. And if this person still lives in your mind after all this time, there may be a deeper reason why distance still exists between you, even while love remains very real beneath the silence. The person you cannot stop thinking about truly does care for you. Even if everything between you feels unclear right now, even if the bond has been covered by confusion, delay, silence, or mixed signals, there is still a reason they keep showing up in your thoughts again and again. It is not happening by accident. It is not just boredom. It is not just emotional weakness. Something important is keeping this connection alive inside your inner world. They appear when the noise fades. They come back when your guard is down. They rise into your mind in the small spaces between ordinary thoughts, in those quiet seconds when you are no longer performing strength for the world. You may be busy with work, laughing with other people, doing something simple, feeling almost fine, and then suddenly their face enters your mind without invitation. A memory lands, their energy returns, their presence fills the room, even though they are nowhere near you. That kind of thought does not feel forced. It moves naturally, smoothly, almost like part of you is still in conversation with something unfinished. And maybe you have tried to stop it. Maybe you told yourself many times that it is over, that you need to move forward, that thinking about them is no longer useful. But even when you feel strong for a while, they remain quietly present beneath everything else. This does not mean something is wrong with you. It does not mean you are desperate, stuck, or unable to let go in a healthy way. It means the bond between you was not shallow. It means something emotional was never fully settled. There are connections that fade fast because they touch the surface and nothing more. Then there are connections that stay because they reached much deeper than words ever managed to explain. This one may be one of those. When someone continues to appear in your thoughts without effort from you, it often means something was felt strongly, even if it was never properly named. Something mattered, something opened, something between you never reached a clean ending. And the human heart does not rest easily around what remains open. We can accept pain more easily than confusion. We can mourn what has clearly ended. But what stays unfinished keeps circling back through the mind because the soul is still trying to understand it. That is why you think of them when something beautiful happens and you want to tell someone. That is why you feel their absence in moments that would have once been shared. That is why the thought of them can arrive with warmth one day and sadness the next. It is not only about missing a person, it is also about feeling the shape of a story that never fully closed. Keep listening, because the distance itself may not mean what you have feared it means. A lot of people assume that if someone stays quiet, they must not feel much. But silence does not always mean emptiness. Sometimes silence is where the strongest feelings go when a person does not know how to carry them. Sometimes people feel deeply and still do nothing, not because the feeling is fake, but because it is too powerful, too confusing, or too risky for them to handle well. The person who lives in your mind may be thinking of you too, even if they do not speak. They may feel the same pull and still choose caution. They may care more than they know how to express. Thoughts do not always travel through words. Emotions do not always become action right away. Some people carry their heart privately because they are overwhelmed by what it wants. They may be unsure of the future. They may be afraid of what closeness will ask of them. They may be standing between desire and fear, love and self-protection, hope and old pain. That creates a very painful kind of distance. Not a lack of feeling, but feeling trapped inside someone who does not yet know how to move with courage. You may sense this at strange times. A wave of sadness without a clear reason. A sudden warmth in your chest. A feeling of connection that appears out of nowhere. These things are hard to explain logically, but strong emotional bonds often move underneath logic. They do not follow neat rules. They do not always move on a straight timeline. They remain alive below the surface while life on the outside looks still. Caring deeply does not disappear just because the mind gives an order. The heart does not move on simply because logic says it should be done by now. When something meaningful touches you, it leaves a mark, and that mark remains until it is understood, healed, transformed, or brought into truth. That is why this connection may still be active in you, not because you are failing, but because it mattered, and meaning does not vanish on command. This does not mean you should wait forever, stop your life, or ignore your own needs. It means only this: what you felt was real, and confusion does not erase reality. Silence does not cancel emotion. Distance does not automatically mean there is no love on the other side. Sometimes distance means there is fear there. Sometimes it means there is shame, uncertainty, unhealed pain, or a deep internal struggle. Sometimes it means one person feels everything and still does not know how to step forward without losing control of themselves. You may never get every answer in the exact way you want, or one day, answers may arrive suddenly. But whether clarity comes through reunion or release, your experience is still valid. The thoughts are not meaningless. The emotions are not pointless. They are part of something that changed you. And anything that truly changes you takes time to settle. So be gentle with yourself here. Do not judge the pace of your heart too harshly. Some truths arrive slowly, and some endings do not happen all at once. When someone lives in your thoughts this deeply over time, the emotional cord between you is usually still active, even if you do not speak, even if months have passed, even if life pulled you in separate directions. Your mind is not holding on without reason. It is responding to what feels unfinished. People are rarely haunted by what is complete. What returns again and again is usually what was left open, unclear, or emotionally unresolved. That is why they come to mind in happy moments too. When something funny happens, when you achieve a small victory, when you see something beautiful and immediately think of sharing it with them. You may not only miss their presence, you may miss the version of yourself that felt alive around them. Certain people wake up a part of us that stays asleep with everyone else. They reflect back something tender, meaningful, familiar, and real. Losing access to that reflection can feel like losing part of your own emotional world. That is why the longing feels bigger than simple attraction. It is not only about wanting a person back, it is also about sensing a living thread that still exists between your inner world and theirs. And this is why the connection may feel so complicated. Love that is simple often moves into clarity quickly. Love that becomes distant or delayed usually lives in the space between deep feeling and deep fear. One or both of you may want closeness, yet still be afraid of what closeness would demand. That tension creates the silence you are living in now. You may wonder if they really care. Why have they not acted? Why not speak clearly? Why not reach out in a real way? The answer is painful but simple. Love and readiness are not always the same thing. Someone can love you and still feel unable to move closer. A person can care deeply and still hesitate because old wounds are louder than their courage. Some people are guarded by past loss. Some are carrying shame from earlier mistakes. Some feel unworthy of a love that feels pure. Some believe they must fix themselves before they are allowed to be close to something real. Some are trapped between current responsibilities and what their heart wants most. This is why the mind keeps returning to them when the world becomes quiet. The heart is still trying to understand what logic cannot finish. And there is something else beneath it. When memories rise, you are not only thinking about them. You are also thinking about who you were when you felt connected to them. They awakened something in you, a softer self, a braver self, a more emotionally open self. Losing that connection may have felt like losing a doorway into part of your own soul. So yes, distance can exist even when love is present. Not because love is absent, but because timing, fear, and inner conflict are standing in the way. That does not make the bond fake. It makes it human. It makes it difficult. It makes it real in a way that easy connections rarely are. Some days you feel detached. Other days, one small reminder brings everything back at once. A song, a place, a phrase, a quiet evening, and suddenly the bond feels fresh again. This is normal. It does not mean you are moving backward. It means two parts of you are trying to work together. One part wants peace and protection. The other part still feels connected beneath the surface. Healing is not forcing yourself to forget. Healing is understanding what the bond is asking of you now. Maybe the connection remains because a lesson is still unfolding. Maybe it remains because the truth between you has not yet been spoken. Maybe it remains because both of you are growing toward the same emotional truth, but not at the same speed. Emotional timing is rarely perfect. One person wakes up first, the other catches up later, or struggles against it for much longer than expected. If you feel that they love you and yet remain distant, they may be fighting an inner battle you cannot see. They may feel the same pull you feel. They may think of you far more often than you know. They may wonder if you still care too. But instead of stepping closer, they hesitate because fear keeps whispering. Fear of rejection, fear of changing everything, fear of ruining what feels sacred, fear of loving something so much that it becomes impossible to control. So love hides, it waits, it watches through silence, and from the outside, it looks like nothing. But inside, it can feel like everything. Stay here because this is where the deeper truth begins to show itself. Yes, the person you cannot stop thinking about may truly love you. Not in a casual way, not in a passing way, in a deep, heavy, constant way that they may not even know how to express properly. But love does not always arrive as bold action. Sometimes it shows itself as restraint, as caution, as careful distance. Someone can feel love with their whole heart and still hold back because they do not feel ready for the weight of it. They may feel unworthy of you, as if you are too good, too kind, too clear, too emotionally honest for where they are right now. They may fear hurting you because they know how fragile and precious this bond feels. They may believe the timing is wrong, that life is too complicated, that their wounds are still too active, that getting closer will only create more pain. So instead of moving toward you, they pause. Instead of speaking, they overthink. Instead of revealing their feelings, they hide behind silence because silence feels safer than vulnerability. This does not happen because they feel too little. It happens because they feel too much. When feelings are shallow, people act quickly. When the bond is light, people take risks easily. But when love feels meaningful enough to change everything, people slow down. They become aware of what is at stake. They feel the weight of impact, of consequence, of responsibility. That is why they may be distant, not because you do not matter, but because you matter so deeply that their own fear rises to meet the feeling every time they think about crossing the space between you. Distance like this is usually born from inner struggle. On one side, they feel you, your energy, your importance, the memory of how real it felt. On the other side, they feel pressure, doubt, and fear pulling them back. They ask themselves hard questions in private. What if I cannot give them what they deserve? What if I disappoint them? What if I bring my unresolved pain into something beautiful and damage it? What if I am not healed enough? What if getting closer makes everything more complicated? What if I lose control? What if I lose them completely? These questions do not come from not caring. They come from caring so much that the risk feels enormous, so they choose distance as a way to manage their own overwhelming emotions. They step back, not because they do not want you, but because they do. Very much. Sometimes distance is the only tool an emotionally frightened person knows how to use. They may not have learned how to love safely. They may not trust themselves with something that matters this much. They may believe quiet is wiser than honesty. But real love held back does not disappear. It waits. It grows in silence. It becomes heavier. It returns in thought, in dreams, in old memories, in unfinished sentences. And that may be why you keep feeling them around your inner life. Not because you are inventing meaning, but because meaning is already there. Some bonds do not need constant messages to stay alive. They remain active because something in both people was permanently touched. For you, though, the distance hurts. It feels sharp, heavy. You do not experience silence as empty space. You feel it in your chest. You feel it in the quiet moments when your mind drifts back to them again. You notice when warmth turns into caution. You notice when connection becomes guarded. You notice shifts that other people would miss. That sensitivity can make the whole experience feel overwhelming. But it also means you are not numb to what is real. The strongest connections often move through long silences, not because they are broken, but because they are still trying to find their true form. Some bonds are too deep to disappear cleanly. They stretch across time. They wait for truth. They ask both people to grow before they can become something clear. There is an unspoken bond between you that survives without constant contact. That is why a random song can stir your whole inner world. That is why a simple memory can change the energy of your day. That is why one quiet thought can feel bigger than 100 distractions. But hear this clearly. A deep connection is not a reason to abandon yourself. It is not permission to live in pain forever. What matters now is not just what they feel. What matters is what this bond is teaching you about your own worth, your own emotional strength, and your own ability to stay open without losing yourself. That lesson is sacred too. Do not miss your own becoming while trying to read theirs. What this connection may be asking of you now is not constant analysis, but deeper trust and clearer self-respect. It may be teaching you patience, but not passive suffering. It may be teaching you how to stop chasing answers and begin listening to your own inner truth. It may be showing you that what is meant for you does not require self-betrayal. Yes, some connections move slowly because they carry real depth. Depth takes readiness. Readiness cannot be forced. But love that is true will never ask you to shrink, beg, or live in endless uncertainty while calling it destiny. So when they enter your mind, do not panic. Do not force extra meaning onto every thought, but do not dismiss it either. Notice how their presence feels inside you. Is it calm, warm, sad, heavy, hopeful? Your emotions are carrying information. The point is not to get trapped in the feeling. The point is to understand what it reveals. Maybe you are being prepared for clarity. Maybe you are being prepared for release. Maybe life is teaching both of you separately before anything can happen together. And if one day the distance closes, it will not be because you suffered enough. It will be because both hearts became ready to meet without fear controlling everything. Until then, trust that your experience has meaning, even if the full meaning has not yet revealed itself. Not everything important is visible in the beginning. Some truths grow in silence before they ever speak. There is also a powerful shift that happens when you stop treating this connection like a question that must be solved immediately and start seeing it as something that has already changed you. Because it has. You are not the same person you were before this bond touched your life. Your emotional world is deeper now. Your standards are clearer. You know the difference between surface attention and real presence. You know how much a half-spoken connection can affect the heart. You know what it feels like when someone awakens something real in you. That matters, and this is why even the pain has meaning. Some connections do not arrive to stay in the same form forever. Some arrive to wake you up, to show you your own capacity for love, intuition, depth, and discernment. To reveal what kind of bond you can no longer pretend is enough. So if they return, you will meet them differently. Not as the old version of yourself who only wanted an answer, but as someone stronger, softer in the right ways, and less willing to accept confusion in the place of truth. And if they do not return in the way your heart once imagined, you will still leave this changed. You will still know more about your soul than you knew before. That is not loss. That is transformation. And sometimes transformation is the hidden purpose of a connection long before reunion or closure ever arrives. Listen closely now, because this last truth may be the one that finally gives your heart some peace. The person you cannot stop thinking about may indeed love you. They may carry that love in silence, in caution, in delay, in fear, in unsent words, in restless nights, in thoughts they never confess to anyone. The distance may not mean absence. It may mean their courage has not yet caught up with the depth of their feeling. Over time, that can change. Inner conflict can soften. Fear can loosen its grip. Wounds can begin to heal. The space between two people can close naturally when both are finally ready to stand in truth instead of defense. Until then, the distance may remain their shield, a pause they use to breathe, to regain emotional control, to keep themselves from being overwhelmed by how much they care. But for you, this is the deeper invitation. Do not let the silence define your value. Do not let the distance make you doubt what you felt. And do not let longing become the only language of this bond. Hold your heart with honesty. Let the thoughts pass through without shame. Let the connection teach you without consuming you. What is real will reveal itself in time, either through return or through a peace so clear that you no longer need the answer to survive. And if the person who keeps living in your mind is truly meant to walk back into your life, they will not come only with feeling. They will come with readiness, truth, and the courage that love always needed from the start. Until that moment, stay grounded. Stay gentle with yourself and trust this. Not every silence is empty, not every distance is the end, and not every unresolved bond is here to break you. Some are here to wake you, shape you, and lead you back to your own deepest truth.